for this service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County, Florida. Whatever your faith or the country of your heritage, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Whether you are relatively new to our community or have been an active member for decades, you are welcome here. We're glad that you chose this congregation as your place of worship today. The service is being broadcast live via Zoom and YouTube, and I wish to express my gratitude for the people that are making that happen. We've got some behind the scenes gatekeepers on Zoom, and in the back of the room today, we have Corey, Tom, and Sue helping us out, and Sharon helping us out. And I also offer a big thanks to the folks in the front here, our musicians, Janet and Kim. I also need to remind you of a few things today to keep our service running smoothly. Please, we will use the chat feature only for the introduction of new folks in the beginning. Otherwise, please remain muted throughout the rest of the service, even when singing. And I know this is tough because we all like to do this. So please sing at home with your mute button on. Thanks. Have a chalice or candle ready for the chalice lighting ritual, and we will let you know when that happens. If you're new to UUFCC, please say hello in the chat feature at this time and stick around after the service for a Zoom social gathering. To learn more about our fellowship, you can speak with Lynn Ritchie, our interim membership coordinator, or email Mary Jane, our office administrator, at office@uufcc.org. We're glad you're with us this morning. And now Janet and Kim will play this morning's prelude called What a Wonderful World by George David Weiss and Bob Thiel. Thank you so much for that. Today's chalice lighting words are by Deborah Falk. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundations of freedom, reason, and welcome, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that envisions our world flourishing with equality for all people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, and a faith of wholeness. This tiny faith, this tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all that light that is within us. As Sharon G. comes up and lights the chalice here in the sanctuary, please join me in the recitation of our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. Thank you, Sharon. Please light your home chalices now. Our opening words today are from Cynthia Landrum. Reverend Landrum is the minister of the UU Church of East Liberty in Clark Lake, Michigan. Actually, I didn't live far from there when I was in Michigan. She blogs at Reverend Cynthia and is a self-published coloring book for all ages of her UU doodle designs. Well, that should be fun. We could look that up. So our opening words are called Apart but Together. Spirit of life and love. We gather together in different ways this morning, from computer screens, from telephones, from car radios. We gather, reaching across the wires, waving from a safe distance to come together in religious community. From living room to front porch to car seat, we gather as we are able, ready to be of service to each other and to the world, ready to build a community of hope and of love. As we face this bright morning, we are apart, but we are together, offering our love, our commitment, our hope, and our prayers in service to one another and to this world. It is a new way, but an old way, that we come together and worship today. We have a long tradition of UUFCC of sharing our joys and our sorrows and life milestones by entering them into the book of life. Because of the pandemic, we modified this tradition, and folks have been emailing their joys and sorrows or calling them in to our book of life at uufcc.org. Then when the worship associates get them, they bring them on Sunday, and we share them with you. Messages should be sent no later than the Saturday prior to the service, if you will. So now I will join the joys, sorrows, and milestones that we have for this week. After I've completed the reading, we will maintain several moments of silence. First of all, let us remember those fearful and mourning in the US, Afghanistan, and around the world who are dealing with terror, violence, and oppression. Let us remember those in Haiti and the US and around the world, again, who are suffering the effects of catastrophic climate change consequences. Particularly, let our thoughts go to those who are facing the hurricane today and future days. Let us remember those in our fellowship who have recently lost loved ones, those who struggle with physical and mental difficulties themselves or in their families. Particularly, let our thoughts be with Dennis and his family, as Lois, his sister-in-law's mother, died on Friday. This is the same woman that he's been spending weekly time with doing respite care. Let us also be in our hearts have John Lee and his family. His 11-year-old granddaughter, Peyton, is with Down syndrome, has COVID. She is in the hospital with pneumonia. His mother, Kelly, has COVID also. Many positive thoughts are needed. Please pray, meditate, or send positive energy to their family and all others we know and care about who are dealing with this. let us share the courage and joy of our fellowship gathering yesterday that allowed us to move forward in a deeper understanding of each other and another step forward in our process of healing. And finally, let us hold in our hearts those joys, those sorrows, and those milestones that are ever so important to us, yet unspoken. Take a moment of silence. And now we join in our musical prayer, Spirit of Life. Thank you so much. We now welcome our very beloved Dennis, who will continue on with part 2 of his series, this one entitled, Where Are We? Dennis?
Good morning. Before I start this morning's sermon, I want you to know that I'm only using first names as I talk about the major contributions that define this fellowship. I have come to this decision based on 2 reasons. The first is obvious. It relates to the technology that we are using. Your privacy must be protected from internet trolls. Second, I know that I will, during this talk, commit the sin of omission. So many of you have made so many significant contributions, and unfortunately, I don't know it, and consequently, your name won't be mentioned. So I'm apologizing before my sin. I will start this morning's sermon with the same words that I used last week. I'm sure that, as I said before, we have all had the experience of hosting a rhyme or a song in our minds that we repeat over and over again, seemingly without any control. As I said again last week, Where did we come from has been recycling in my brain for well over a month now, and probably will continue to do so until the series is completed at 11:30 next Sunday. Most of you are familiar with the song. It is published in our UU hymnal supplement, Singing the Journey. And we have sung it numerous times over the years. Where Do We Come From was first written by the French artist and sculptor Paul Gauguin, and he was a famous post-impressionist artist. The music is by Brian Tate. And once again, I'm going to ask you to join me in a simplified version. Each line is repeated. So I will sing a phrase, and then you simply answer by singing what you just heard. The interesting aspect of this act of worship is that I'm assuming you can hear me, but I can't hear you. I have to take it on faith that you are singing back to me. Again, even if you think you can't sing or are uncomfortable doing so, I'm counting on you. So sing when it's your turn. I need an F, please. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? I'm sure you did so well. I'm afraid I was a little flat, but. Last week, I focused on the first question the song asks, where do we come from? By telling the story, an amazing story about our founder, Lucille Haight. So today, I'm going to look at what are we? The idea of answering this question in 20 minutes is absurd, but I have the audacity and the faith that I can at least provide some insights that hopefully will stimulate your ongoing interest and motivate you to struggle with the question beyond the confines of this service. The easiest answer to the question, what are we, is to provide a name, address, phone number, email, and a consumer certificate of exemption number. I do this regularly when I'm purchasing items at Lowe's for the grounds crew. The first time I went through this process and presented form number DR-14, which eliminates the sales tax, the cashier hesitated and then with a confused look commented, "So you represent a kind of church?" I wasn't surprised by her question because I was dressed in stained gardening clothes and covered with dirt and sweat. With a sanctimonious posture, I actually tried to answer her question. However, 30 seconds into my rather evangelical response, it was obvious that she was sorry she had asked, especially when the gentleman impatiently waiting in line behind me asked, "Does your church believe that the Lord Jesus Christ died for your sins?" I threw the bags of topsoil over my shoulders and quickly headed for the car. So we are Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County, Florida. We own a 4,500 square foot mortgage-free building that has a new roof. We're on 1.8 acres of land at 5232 Forest Nelson Boulevard in the unincorporated town of Port Charlotte, Florida, in the United States of America and on the planet Earth. We have over 100 members and supporting friends and have been around for 52 years and in our current location since 1984. As much as I hate to admit it, the answers to the question, what are we, to a great extent is contained in our 13-page bylaws. When I served as president of the Board of Trustees, I kept a copy of these under my pillow. They set forth the rules of the game along with additional extensive lists of policies and procedures. The bylaws begin with Article 1, which establishes our name. Article 2 states that the fellowship shall be affiliated with the Unitarian Universalist Association and its districts and regional divisions, and the Unitarian Universalist Endowment of Charlotte County. So without question, we are Unitarian Universalists, but we are also an independent religious community. The bylaws state in Article 6, the governance section, ultimately, authority rests with the members of the fellowship in assembly. The article states that before we can conduct any business, there has to be a quorum of 40% of the membership present. The membership is defined by those whose names have been retained on the member roll for at least 30 days immediately preceding the congregational meeting. Members must also be 16 years old and make a financial pledge of record. We also have dual membership, which enables our numerous snowbirds to vote. We have lifetime members, which are selected by the Board of Trustees. And the only difference there is they don't have to make a pledge of record. And then we have lots of friends who can do all the things members can do except vote. While we, the membership, have ultimate authority, the idea of calling a congregational meeting with 30 days prior notice to make the many, many decisions that must be made on an ongoing basis is simply absurd. So we elect a president, currently Laurie, a vice president, Ted, a secretary, Herb, a treasurer, Nancy, and 5 trustees, Gudrun, Helen, Fred, Sharon, and Betty. They form our current governing group. Everyone on the Board of Trustees can serve for 2 years and can be reelected for a second term with one exception, the treasurer. The treasurer can serve until she dies or just ups and quits. Nancy, may you live forever. Also, I should add, if a member of the board resigns prior to the end of his or her term, the board has the power to replace that person. We are committed to the concept of co-ministry. We share the responsibilities and joys of nurturing each other and the sacred community that embraces our common and individual beliefs with or without the presence of an in-house minister. Over the years, the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County has employed 13 Unitarian Universalist ministers and sponsored 1 ministerial intern. With the exception of the first 2, These men and women were recruited with the support of the Unitarian Universalist Association. The first two, Reverend Carl Westman and Reverend Donald Lawson, were retired UU ministers who were employed on a very limited basis to lead the majority of worship services. Reverend Westman served from 1978 through 1984, and Reverend Lawson came in 1984 and left in 1989. In 1990, following our first formal ministerial search, the congregation called Reverend George Brooks out of retirement to serve half-time for 2 years. The time limit was Reverend Brooks' idea. He insisted that the congregation set up a fund separate from the operating budget to assure that there would be adequate money to call a full-time minister after his second retirement. During the following 2 decades, the fellowship was served by 10 professional ministers. 4 of those stayed for just a year as interims. The longevity awards go to 2 settled ministers, Reverend Sam Trumbore, with 6 years of service, and Reverend Amy Kindred, who was with us from 2012 until 2019. Currently, we are in divorce proceedings with our last minister, Dr. Dan Lambert. While we are still paying his salary for another month, we have been officially separated since last April. While it is very clear that our severed relationship with Dr. Lambert has been extremely problematic, divisive, and painful, I feel it is important to point out that the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County has functioned for 35 of its 52 years without a full-time minister. I consider that a major strength. Speaking of strengths, we owe to a great extent the success of our liberal religious community to the work of our numerous committees. Several of our committees are required by the bylaws. The nominating committee is made up of 5 members and 3 alternates. Members are elected by the membership at our annual meetings. Their job is to develop a slate of voting members that are widely representative of the fellowship as possible for the following positions: expiring board positions, nominating committee positions, and delegates and alternates to the General Assembly of the UUA and UUA district meetings. The second committee that is mandated by the bylaws is the Committee on the Ministry, which serves as a liaison between the minister, if we have one, and the congregation. The usual practice when there is a new minister is to have the members of the ministerial search team serve as members of this committee. Finally, the board may appoint short-term special committees or task force to deal with unforeseen issues. A good example of the appointment of a task force was when we thought we had an opportunity to purchase 2 additional acres. After the task force has completed its assignment, or as in the last example, the task disappears, then the congregation will determine whether that task force turns into a long-term committee. The rest of our committees have generated out of our needs, our desires, and our commitments. These committees, to a great extent, define what we are. At the last program council meeting, which was held last Tuesday, 7 committee representatives held a Zoom meeting to specifically consider what we have accomplished during the past 8 months during this horrible pandemic. Trudy, chair of the art committee, talked about our current membership, the membership show, which is accessible to individuals and mass groups of 10 or less. She also talked about the virtual shows by Tom and by me that have been on our website. There are also plans to stage a photography show in the near future featuring plants. Helen, representing the Caring and Hospitality Committee, talked about the plans for a major gala celebrating our post-COVID reopening. The Mardi Gras themed celebration was an inspiration of Roxanne and was originally planned for October. However, the recent explosion of the COVID Delta variant has put those plans on hold. Have faith, we will party again. The Caring Committee continues to call and send cards to those who are dealing with illness and even the death of loved ones. A perfect example of this is when recently our dear member Sharon lost her husband. And with her permission, I will read a thank you note that Sharon recently posted. The email was sent to 37 members and friends of this fellowship. My dear friends, you have come through for me these past weeks in ways that I couldn't have imagined, nor can I imagine having gotten through those first unreal days without you. Laurie, all day the first day, sorting papers and somehow mastering Jim's computer, advising and consoling, and carting off miscellaneous items along with now defunct prescriptions that were dropped off at Walgreens. Soon after, Herb and Carol, laden with food, and later supplies like cat litter and milk bones. Not to mention picking up my daughter Dawn at the airport in Fort Myers and offering a return trip. And then Dennis with his endlessly entertaining life stories after taking a chair to the dump, plus meeting me at the credit union days after that to advise on transferring accounts. And Trudy bearing the still warm homemade chicken soup that really does nourish both body and spirit. Followed by Ted for a good discussion of recent events and a better chance to know someone I've known far less deeply for years. Dr. Mike Kay brought stew and homemade peach pie. Mary Jane brought me a milkshake, reminded me that I could buy Jim a paver, and accompanied me on my first trip to the funeral home. Somewhere along the way, Laurie returned accompanied with Jackie, and there was more good conversation. And how can I ever repay Carolyn and Jim for their caring attention, even beyond all the collecting and schlepping and distributing of those endless loads in their pumpkin orange car. All this on top of dozens of notes and cards of sympathy, phone calls and emails with offers to help from the rest of you. If I ever doubted that this fellowship is my heart home, this outpouring would put that to rest forever after. Thank you, every last one, Sharon. The grounds crew has fortunately been able to work throughout this pandemic. Our gardens are thriving. A new patio has been built and landscaped just beyond the vine-covered trellis. A new paver ramp has been constructed off the north side sanctuary door. The efforts to control the mosquitoes and fire ants with environmentally friendly pesticides has been ongoing. The composter, donated by Delmer, is filled with rich, dark soil, and the worms in the yellow bins are multiplying, fed by so many gifts of rotting fruit and vegetables. Our property is a botanical paradise, thanks to Tony and Anne and Bill and Tom and me. The meditation group continues to meet weekly at the fellowship through the support provided by Helen, and 3 chalice circles continue under the leadership provided by Kay, Sharon, and me. The 19 members of the racial justice group met last spring to explore the UU curriculum, Widening the Circle. And just last Thursday afternoon, Ted hosted a Zoom meeting on the proposed 8th principle. The 8th principle states that we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. Additionally, Myrna and Laura A. are planning to initiate a fellowship-wide common read of Imana Perry's book, Breathe, A Letter to My Sons. Following the reading, they will lead discussions on anti-racism that were generated from the book. Gudrun reported that the Social Justice Committee continues to support Harry Chapin Food Bank, CHAPS, and Meals on Wheels through our second helping tradition. The BOGO box, which is located at the front door, continues to provide weekly food contributions for CHAPS. Herb's request to help 3 of our own generated funds beyond our wildest expectations. The Immigration Justice Committee, represented by Betty, has been meeting Greyhound buses since February as they pass through Port Charlotte. She's there to offer support to immigrants traveling from the southern border. The Immigration Justice Committee is working with the Democratic Women's Group, who has raised money and are providing what are called dignity bags, which contain toiletries, snacks, and other necessities. The IJC has also purchased 100 yard signs that state, "Hate is not welcome here." These are being sold in order to raise additional funds to support their efforts. There are only 30 left. Thanks to the reopening committee, Laura, Don, and me, with the support of several other volunteer painters, have the interior of our building looking better than ever. Laura's sense of design and color and her exacting expectations, coupled with our muscle, has more than once left me with a sense of awe. The worship committee has planned and executed 18 worship services since April, and planning for the month of September is complete. I am proud to co-chair this important group with Laura A., and I am so grateful for the support of Reverend Kathy. I always look forward to her third Sunday sermons. Our worship associates, Ken, Laurie, Kay, Joseph, Sharon, and Dorothy, provide a wellspring of ideas, service, and commitment. The worship committee has subscribed to a monthly program entitled Soul Matters. This very rich resource includes sermons and suggestions for Sunday morning readings, music, meditations, chalice lightings, and opening words. There are ideas for sermons and many sources of inspiration. Additionally, it provides detailed religious education curricula for children and adults, plus plans to create small group experiences. Next week, I will tell you more about the possibilities offered through this amazing resource. Thanks, of course, to the gifts of our music director, Jim, sound technician and singer, Linda, and members of the UUFCC choir, plus volunteer pianists, Janet and Kim. Every week through these gifts, we experience the joy of music. Our communications committee keeps us informed regarding all the interesting and inspirational experiences that are available through this fellowship. The website, created by Laura A. and Laura L., is a portal into this fellowship and includes a creative monthly newsletter created by editor Fred. Additionally, our office administrator, Mary Jane, creates the weekly updates. Her musings are always entertaining, and the calendar not only tells us what is happening, it tells us how to get there. I really would be lost without this group's efforts. Our climate justice team, which is currently on vacation, is still sending letters on the environment that are being posted on the Chalice Connections on the website. Lynn has agreed to act as interim membership coordinator, followed later by the support from Stephanie and Lori B. Newcomers are always welcome at this fellowship. I also must at this point express my deepest gratitude to Corey, Tom, Sue, Sharon G, Lori B, Jackie, for their continuing dedication to the development of our technology. Without their ongoing work, most of what I just shared would not have happened. On a final note, I talked to our treasurer, Nancy, yesterday. While I won't discuss dollars and cents over the internet, she assures us that we have adequate money in the operating fund to meet our obligations, reserves in the capital fund to cover emergencies that may occur at the building, and our rainy day reserves, which are managed by the UUA, are in very good shape. So, what are we? We are the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Port Charlotte, a liberal religious community committed to diversity and social justice, a place where spirituality, reason, compassion, service meet, even during a worldwide pandemic. And this community will thrive, even with the current problems, because it has an abundance of what I'll call long haul people, which is the name of a poem by Rudy Nesmer, which I will read to end my message. You find them in churches when you're lucky. Other places too, though I mostly only know the ecclesiastical varieties. Long haul people, upon whose shoulders and pocketbooks and casseroles and daylight nighttime hours, a church is built and maintained. After the brass is tarnished and the cushions need restitching, they pay their pledges full and on time. Even when the music is modern, they support each canvas. Though the sermons aren't always short, they mow the lawns and come to suppers. They teach Sunday school when there's no one else and they'll miss the service. Ask what they think of the minister or plans for the kitchen renovation or the choral anthem or Christmas pageant or the color of the bathroom paint. They'll reply, Individuals and fashions arrive and pass. The church, their church, will be here steady and hale for a long, long time. It will, for long haul people, bless a church with a very special blessing. So, what are we? We are the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Port Charlotte, Florida, and we are indeed blessed. Amen. And now Janet and Kim will play Arioso by Bach.
Thanks to you, Dennis, one of our long haul people. Never a disappointment, always a pleasure to listen to you. I'm in the well-known position of, I can't think what the baseball thing is, but like wrap up or whatever here. A couple other folks that we have to remember that are other long haul people. One of them's outside right now, sweating and sweeping. Bobby is there 2 to 3 times a week. Oh my gosh, through the entire pandemic, making sure that we are clean on the outside, looks good and safe from looking like a vacant building. He just does she just does an incredible job. And the other group is our reopening planning committee, who has been busy keeping us safe and meets on a regular basis throughout the pandemic, keeping track of what's going on with COVID. And even though sometimes we gurr at them, they do their job and say, no, you got to keep your mask on, and no, you got to stay out of here. So thank you so much to all of them. Now we move to our offering. One of the most important goals of the world's faith traditions is to bring humanity closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. One of the goals of this fellowship is to encourage all who gather here to grow more and more generous in both spirit and action. Each week, we take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that supports this congregation and the many mysteries of which Dennis spoke. If you are visiting with us today for the first time, please do not feel obligated to give. Your presence is gift enough. We can receive offerings by mailing checks to the office, drop them in our mailbox out here if you're in town, call the office to make other arrangements. We also take payments through the Venmo app on your phone, which needs to be made out to UUFCC offering. And we can talk about second helping on the second month of the month. Your generosity is always appreciated, and we forever are grateful. Now we move to life of the community. It's time to highlight here the special events and activities that are going on. And a lot of these you will read about if you check out your updates. So many times people say, where'd you hear about that? How do I find out about that? Well, watch for Mary Jane's thing, search in your email or your promotion box for UUFCC update, and you'll find them. They provide a very important means for staying connected during these challenging times. Additionally, if you would like to have fellowship events highlighted during the service, just email us at the Worship Associates at bookoflife@uufcc.org, and we will add them to our list. So today I have the following announcements. First of all, we understand that a few people were unable to enter the town hall yesterday because of not having a password. Our apologies for this. Please contact us through the board at uufcc.org for follow-up on that meeting and in the future. And generally, all of our passwords are for the universal link are found in updates and on the calendar. Once in a while, we miss it. I apologize to those couple of people that were not able to be there. Okay, this week, Monday, Dennis Shaw's Chalice Circle is actually live in this room. And he also has a Zoom link so that people are coming from elsewhere or up north or wherever you are can join in. Spanish at 4 o'clock for beginners with Herb. And that's quite a fun group and quite a challenge. Wednesday, September 1st, Immigration Justice Committee. If you want to learn about these helping with immigrants at the bus stop that Dennis referred to, or maybe help with bags, come to that meeting and find out more about it. Because we have a lot of people that like to help with these things, and you don't even have to go to the bus stop. You can help with bags. So if you want to go to the bus stop, you can, but Betty and her crew will let us know how we can best be of help. And at 7 p.m., John Lee is still there with happy hour. Yay, John, on Zoom. Our closing words today are from the Gray Hymnal that Dennis and I will share. If you have this at home, it's number 728, and you're welcome to stay muted and join us at home. Let's see here. This call and response reading is from the Reverend John Buerns, who is president of the UUA of Congregations from 1993 to 2001. He also is an author of several books. His latest is The Conflagration: How the Transcendentalists Sparked the American Struggle for Racial, Gender, and Social Justice. Here we are. Blessed are those who yearn for deepening more than escape, who are not afraid to grow in spirit.
Blessed are those who take seriously the bonds of community, who regularly join in celebration and learning, who come as much to minister as to be ministered unto.
Blessed are those who bring their children, who invite their friends to come along, to join in fellowship, service, learning, and growth.
Blessed are those who support the church and its work by their regular, sustained, and generous giving, and who give of themselves no less than their money.
Blessed are those who know that the fellowship is often imperfect, yet rather than harbor feelings of anger or disappointment, bring their concerns and needs to the attention of the fellowship leaders.
Blessed are those who, when asked to serve, do it gladly, who realize that the chance is brought about through human meeting, who do the work of committees and stay till the end.
Blessed are those who speak their mind in meetings, who can take and give criticism, who keep alive their sense of humor.
Blessed are those who know that the work of the church is the transformation of society, who have a vision of beloved community transcending the present, who do not shrink from controversy, sacrifice, or change.
Blessed are they indeed. Thank you. We'll now ask Sharon to extinguish the chalice, and for all of you to join me in our traditional recitation. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of hope, the fear of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. Go now in peace. And please join us in our chat room on Zoom after the service. Thank you.
If there is still a host on that can help me with an issue for the Wednesday evening